Welcome back to The Heat. Chinese President Xi Jinping is visiting Latin America this week with stops in Ecuador, Peru and Chile. The Chinese president will also attend the APEC economic leaders meeting in Peru. Joining us now from Lima is Victor Ai. He's an international commentator and a former television host with CCTV's Spanish channel. From Santiago, we're joined by Sergio Bitar. He's the president of the Chilean Council for Prospective and Strategy. And from Quito, we're joined by Katalina Barreiro. She's the director of the Center of International Relations at Ecuador's Institute for Advanced National Studies. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Victor, let me start with you. How important is APEC to China's efforts to integrate its economy into the Pacific region, especially developing countries?
Okay, Anand, thank you very much for having me here. Right now, it's my first time visiting Peru and Lima and to participate in this APEC CEO Summit. And I believe this CEO Summit of APEC is as much as important as the whole China strategy to the world, especially for the new era of globalization. I believe China is trying his best to do more things globally, not just in Asia, but also in Europe. Now, we're talking about the Belt and Road initiatives, but more in a bigger picture, we're talking about a new relationship between the countries with the 21 countries in the zones in the Asia-Pacific area. I believe it is an important role for not just only for China, but also for new opportunities in those countries, especially in Latin America, like Peru, Ecuador, and Chile. So I believe this time with the president of Xi Jinping's visit and participation of this CEO summit of APEC, they're going to talk about lots of new stuff and push forward some old issues to be realized during these few days with other leaders from all over the world.
Sergio, Chile was the first South American country to establish diplomatic relations with China. Chile was also the first South American country to establish a free trade agreement with Beijing. What's the future role for Chile in connecting China with this major trading bloc?
We have been planning to be a country sort of platform or bridge between South America and Asia, and China in particular. So in that sense, we see the future moving to the Pacific, moving to the east. And therefore, our strategy is to develop infrastructure that enables us to do that and to move into new areas of exporting and investing, especially in areas of copper, where we are the larger producer of the world, and in terms of also food and agriculture as critical aspects. So I see also the Alliance of the Pacific, where Peru and Mexico are, and Colombia, to be a major common space for acting South America on the one side, Latin America in general, and Asia on the other side.
Catalina, the Chinese President Xi Jinping will be visiting Ecuador. He will be the first Chinese leader to visit Ecuador after diplomatic relations were established. How significant is this visit for Ecuador, and what do you expect will come out of it?
First of all, I think it's just a very important time between the relations China and Ecuador. We have to remember that our relationship started at the 90s with other kind of corporations, but right now to have here the president means that we are also in a very good period of time where we can have developing other kind of relations like cooperation, like debt, like financial, like investment. It's an opportunity for Ecuador not only to receive it, but also to relate it with another culture totally different as Ecuador has.
Victor, if we look at Latin American economies, they are to a large extent based on commodity exports. How important is it for Latin American economies to diversify, and how does China help them with that?
Okay, that's a very good question, because historically we think many Latin American countries are, natural resources oriented countries. But actually, every single country are looking for a transformation to technology and innovation. It's just like China. Because China used to be a agriculture society, and we have passed the period of industrialization, and now we're looking for a new period and opportunity, historic opportunity to go to a technological and innovative area. So I think this time China can cooperate in this area even more with the Latin American countries. We know, for example, some of the Latin Americans, like Uruguay, used to be called a IT center of South America, but I believe Peru is one of the pioneer country too. We know just yesterday the third World Internet Forum was held in Wuzhen in Zhejiang province in China, and President Xi Jinping gave a speech over there, and many internet tycoons were there talking about the future of internet and internet technology. And I believe China will have a leading position in this area, along with the United States and other advanced developed countries, to help and to cooperate with those countries like Latin American and other regions in APEC, 21 countries. And I believe there's an old saying in China, it's called the mountain and seas cannot distance the people who share the common aspirations, which means China is not looking for, some natural resources from Latin American countries. We're looking for a real cooperation with these countries and for a better future by the innovation of technology.
Sergio, the Chinese ambassador to Chile, Li Baorong, he said that this visit by President Xi Jinping will mark a new milestone in the relationship between these two countries. How do you see relations expand between China and Chile?
All Latin America and Chile in particular, we are entering to a new cycle after the boom and the price of the high prices of raw materials. Now the question is, are we going to follow the same line? And the answer is no. So the big question mark in our relations with China is how are we going to adapt from both sides to a new cycle where we need more diversification, more technology, more manufacturing, more value added, more supply chains, rather than just exporting our raw materials. So in a way, this meeting and these sessions, it's very important to adapt both of us. China is doing big reforms. The economic power is moving to the east. We need to move into inclusion and diversification of our economy. So how do we put together and we match both strategic interests? I would say that's the major thing. We foresee a major relation with China, continue to develop, but also we need to move into new areas, not just raw materials.
Katalina, my colleague, CCTV correspondent Michael Voss, recently talked with the Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa. Let's listen to part of what President Correa had to say.
We are very grateful towards China and towards President Xi Jinping because he's financing our development. China is financing our development, very important projects, for instance, hydroelectrics. So we are honored receiving President Xi Jinping.
So we heard the President Correa talk about the help that Ecuador is getting from China with its hydroelectric project. How important is Chinese investment to Ecuador's energy sector?
Yes, as I said in the question before, I think that right now China is one of our most important partners in our economy. Not only in certain kind of levels. First of all, the president called about our plan of hydroelectric systems, and it's a project about technology inside our form of production. But also China, right now we have not only this kind of financial support, but also as investment in other areas like tourism and other things. I think that's why I said before that is one of the most important moments of the relationship between Ecuador and China. Not only because we are receiving this kind of financial support as debt, but only because we are trying to have some other kind of cooperation by the experience and development that China has.
Victor, if we look at this from China's point of view, here we have President Xi Jinping. He'll be visiting 3 countries during this tour. How important is Latin America to China's broad overall global economic and diplomatic future?
Okay, it's the third time for President Xi Jinping to come to Latin American countries, and for the first time in Peru. And I believe Latin American countries is playing an even more important role. Starting from a few years ago, we had a very good relationship for decades. Latin American countries established the diplomatic relations, of the first group to start with New China, People's Republic of China. But we're looking for new opportunities now after entering into the 21st century, not because we were old friends, but also we are new partners in development. China is, many people are saying that China is investing and buying things out from Latin American countries, but they haven't seen many things that China is doing really good jobs. Like we were talking about in Ecuador, right? The hydropower for the country, and we know that China launched the first telecom satellite for Bolivia, Cali, a few years ago, and I was witness that moment. And I believe China have helped a little bit with the progress of the development of the society in some of the Latin American countries, but also, and meanwhile, Latin American countries helped China a lot to export their very cherishable resources and their technology, their ideas, their fruits, their mining coals, everything. We're cooperating with each other, and I can see the importance of Latin American countries, especially these three that President Xi Jinping is about to visit, will play a more and more important role in the near future. And besides that, next year we can even see in 5 years the growth of the trade between China and the Latin American countries will have a huge and magnificently growth in the future, because we had a plan. Last year in 2015, when the first China-Latin American Forum held in China, President Xi already set up a mark, a number for $500 billion in 2020. So it's a lot of money, it's a big number, and I believe we will have a great future, not just for commerce, for trade, but also for humanity, for the exchange of students and other things. It will be a strategic and even open-minded cooperation.
Sergio, of course, we are hearing that this expansion in the relationship between China and Latin America goes beyond trade. We keep hearing about connectivity between Latin America and China. Chile and China are looking at a proposal to connect the two countries via fiber optic cable. What do you know about that, and how important is that? What does it bring?
Most of our connections with the world, if you want to move in terms of expanding wide band in internet, it's through the US, or now probably through the Atlantic with Europe. We need one in the South Pacific with China. So one of our projects has been talk to Chinese and see if we can do something that connects the South Pacific with a fiber optic cable, Chile and China. And all this is part of how we see the future. We see the future moving to the Pacific and to Asia. We see that China in the last 10, 15 years has increased Latin American autonomy vis-a-vis the United States. We see that if the TPP is not moving, the agreement of APEC and expanding APEC for a free trade agreement for the Asia Pacific and the regional comprehensive economic cooperation organization that China is building in the area of Asia are things where we have to be observers. So we see that very interesting space. But more than that, it's the cultural aspect. I was honored as a Minister of Education to sign, I think, one of the first agreements with the Minister of Education of China to start teaching Chinese in Chile. And that is going on in all Latin America. So in order to build cultural links and economic links beyond that, we need to know each other more, and we need to know more the language Chinese, the culture of China, the desires, the products they need, the way they think. And I think that is very important for the future. It's not just economic trade and investment.